it's always like, oh, you're live, but you've actually been live for a few like weird seconds, so I never actually know. Hello and welcome to we're talking about the Fantastic Four. I'm wearing a shirt that says Materialists Girl, but that's just some clickbait to get you to wonder if I'm gonna start some discourse. Girls, I'm not gonna start some discourse, okay? Because I want to talk Marvel. I want to go back to my roots. I want to play my little theme song in the background here from my very long-lived, I was going to say short-lived, but it lasted for quite a long time, podcast. My First Name is Agent, where I would talk about Marvel movies. Shout out to Arian for making that for me. Hi, thanks. I was going to do this before, but I should do it now. I have so many screens and so many decisions to make. Where will I click? And will I put down my prop microphone that's not plugged into anything? Yes, I will. Notice the audio quality never changes. I wanted to look up a list of how many of these movies that I have missed, because it's definitely some. Let's see. I just wanted like a list. Because I was like the biggest fan, and then I just really fell off for a while where stuff was just like not fun for me, and I literally just like wanted to see a list. Holy cow. I loved this movie, which is why I wanted to talk about it. I was so surprised because, again, I have missed out on a lot of Marvel lately. I have not been as enchanted with the stuff as I used to be. And now that I'm looking at this, I'm like, oh, Moon Knight. I loved Moon Knight. Oh, I liked Guardians of the Galaxy. Volume 3. And then I just, I watched the first season of Loki. I kind of watched What If. I didn't see Deadpool and Wolverine. I didn't watch Agatha All Along. I didn't watch Daredevil. I didn't watch Captain America Brave New World. Oh my gosh, there's so much stuff that I missed out. Anyway, with this one, I was like, oh, we're so back. You know what I mean? Because it had like a specific kind of optimism that I've been looking for. But what it also had that I feel like Marvel has been lacking, and that I thought was like a breath of fresh air and also much, much needed, was somewhat of a lack of melodrama. To define, melodrama does not mean increased or enhanced levels of drama where like emotion is felt more largely. It actually just means that like the characters fit really neatly into stereotypes of like good guy, bad guy, person that needs to be saved. It's just like it creates a lot more like black and white lines, and a lot of, especially Disney, is very melodramatic, where it's like good guy, bad guy, and having sort of nuance in there is not a thing. What I have been loving is getting super into like Miyazaki movies and other Japanese stuff that has a little bit more like, well, let's talk about it. You know, like we're all many things. We are good, we're bad. We have moments. And I think that's like something that I really appreciated about this movie, that every character, and these are characters that are like in the cultural consciousness so much that it's like undeniable. You're just like, you know who they are. You're like, oh, Mr. Fantastic, the guy who stretches. I have to go turn the fan on, and I'm going to go over there. But I can yell. It's just been really nice to like watch them have a little bit more to them as characters as they become cultural touchstones, to the point where we don't have to like share their origin stories anymore. Like we get it. We know kind of where they came from and kind of what they're about. And because we didn't have to watch in this one, which I would say is not really a spoiler, but it's just the way it's set up, we didn't have to watch really the origin story part of the Fantastic Four, where like they're struggling with their powers and adapting to this new normal and all of that kind of stuff that like we've definitely seen before and does make for like interesting storytelling, but also creates like good versus evil as they're sort of like establishing themselves as either superheroes or supervillains or nuanced in between middle ground vigilantes, you know, like it was fun to start kind of with them in the middle of the journey, and they all had like a little more going on. It was like, look, I want to be able to save the world, but I also want to be able to like move forward with my goals and my dreams and my life, which I really loved. It just created better nuance. Of course, I'm gonna always want it to be a little more complicated. And I just want to also say, like, I am not following the discourse about this whatsoever. I'm not in any like fan spaces right now with Marvel, especially because it's either like toxic freaks who are obsessed with Disney and are getting paid by Disney, or like have access to these premieres and stuff, and they're never going to give that up. So, of course, their reviews are like, ah, or just like haters. And then there's like the comic book purists. And for me, I don't really care about that. Because it's such a multiverse anyway. Like, how do you say, like, do it right? It's like you have a preference. There's not a right way to do any of it. So with what Adam Shankman was able to do with Fantastic Four was so fun. We drop in and it's like, here are these characters. You know what they're about. You kind of even know what their powers are. Here's kind of their personalities. We've got the tropes. But what they managed to do with this cast was like make them warm as a unit. They seemed like friends. They live together. They cook together. It's just like very well oiled, because again, we're past this hurdle. I think in a moment where like a lot of people are struggling, it would have been super boring to watch that film again, and it was fun to watch the hopeful version where there was still conflict and they still had to like look ahead. But honestly, the universe that's been created in this, which again, not a spoiler to say that it's set up in like somewhat of a retro future situation where it looks like the Jetsons. The cars they're driving are cool, and like it can fly and all this, like sort of the possibility and the hopefulness of what sci-fi was in that era, in like the nuclear age, when we were thinking like, wow, we were gonna have robots that do our laundry. The reason I still think that stuff is important is, again, because like some 10-year-old somewhere is watching that and going, oh, and that's the first exposure they're having to that idea. And maybe that's them carrying on the concept and creating a whole, you know, different kind of world. It's up to us to, like, us being the artists. Hi, everyone. It's up to us to create hope in those moments. And especially for like a family friendly thing, I just was really impressed with the way that it was conveying a future where like there are stewards who actually are taking good care, who are bringing people together in like diplomatic ways. So many great examples of that. Just like hopefulness again, which is so like the theme of my previous video as well. But this one was really coming in the fact that, like, you know, it's complicated out there and there are conversations that need to be had like face to face, and people need to be able to be vulnerable with one another. It was just like, so fun. I love this. I thought like overall it was just inspiring. I think everybody could use a little bit of just looking at a different possibility. And sometimes when things look really hard, it's like nice to get into someone else's brain who's been able to take like a breath enough to come up with that possibility. So that's what I think is like so beautiful about it. What I also think is like, I hesitate to even say this because what if they take this idea for real? But like Disney, you have an opportunity here. Turn Tomorrowland into a retro future haven paradise. Like, it was sort of that before. That's what Tomorrowland was. It was like the promise of the way technology could influence our society for the better. I have so many thoughts about this as like for real a Disney adult. And now that they own this and I see this beautiful vision with Earth, I believe 828, because I was like really invested in this. And that's when you start paying attention to the details. Like, oh, the pregnancy stick that she used was a Stark product. Like, the fangirl is just like never far from the surface. But there's so many cool ideas. They could like do rides about it. They could do solar punkiness. They could have robots running around. There's so many opportunities that they could be doing in the park that would be tied to this concept and like look forward in the way that I feel like the company purports to like have a mission about. I would love to see that. There's so much opportunity here. Because it just like was that cool. I don't even know how to describe it other than it's like clean energy, and there was still like advertising. It still felt like really American and somewhat archaic in some ways, but at the same time it was like all the charm that we like think we're harking back to when we start getting into dangerous nostalgia territory with like all the progress that we were sort of promised. And I think so much of it also goes back to like there was a guy there are 4 guys, one is a woman, which I like could go on and on about the Sue Storm of this universe and how much I was inspired by that character. I really thought it was fun. And like the crumbs, like I'm still here for the crumbs because that's all they're giving us to this day. And I think like even in this climate, it's like pretty hard to demand like, please have all the change that we expect from you. I just feel like there again needs to be a little more nuance. So in kind of analyzing this movie and all movies, like I think we're taking things way too far in some directions and like looking at way too broad of a like, who is this person? Who is the creator behind this? And what is the story they're telling? And are they doing that immediately successfully? Or is it like something that is maybe up for interpretation because this kind of stuff is hard? I feel strongly that like it's up to us to enjoy what we enjoy and analyze what makes it fun. And, we're supposed to be looking for all of the angles if we're doing like what are we doing? Are we doing journalism about it? Are we just like for funsies analyzing everything like way too hard because we went to liberal arts school? Like please chime in the comments. What are we doing? The discourse online. Like I know for me what I'm doing is what I always set out to do. I've wanted to like be an entertainment journalist since I was 17, and every now and then I come back around to it and I want to give some commentary on stuff that like I feel is impacting the culture and impacting me specifically. So yeah, this was not a long one. Also, it's hot. So thank you for being here. I'm going to sign off and we will perhaps talk another film depending on feedback or whoever wants to be here. But when you are here, you're family. I really need to figure out a sign off. That's probably not going to be it.